In this video, I'm going to go over the product and quotient rules. The product rule, if we are multiplying two different terms, we could multiply everything out and do all kinds of algebra beforehand, or we can just use the product rule and save ourselves a little bit of time. And what the product rule says is that I'm going to take the first function, multiply it by the derivative of the second function, then add it to the second function times the derivative of the first. That's very important. You will absolutely have to remember that. It's the first function times the derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first. Let's do an example. Okay, so the product rule says that the derivative of two things multiplied together, u and v in this case, is equal to the first function, or the first part of the function, times the derivative of the second one, plus the second one times the derivative of the first one. So if we take a look at this particular example here, my first part of this equation in front of us is u equals x squared plus 1, and the second one we're going to call v is x cubed plus 3. Now I can go ahead and find the derivative of each of these, or we can just go ahead and follow along. So f prime of x, the derivative of this thing is going to be the first u, x squared plus 1, times the derivative of v. This is v, and the derivative of v is going to be 3 times x to the 3 minus 1, which is 2, plus the constant 3, and the derivative of that is just 0, so we don't need to add it on there. So there's the first half of my constant. The first part of the function times the derivative of the second, plus the second part of the function, x cubed plus 3, times the derivative of u, this one. The derivative of u is 2 times x using our power rule. So now all I really need to do is just simplify this. So if I take 3x squared times x squared, I get 3x to the 4th, plus 3x squared times 1, which is 3x squared, plus 2x times x cubed is 2x to the 4th, and 2x times 3 is 6x. Combining like terms, I get 2x to the 4th plus 3x to the 4th is 5x to the 4th, plus 3x squared plus 6x. So that is how we use the product rule to differentiate. The quotient rule is a little bit different. In the product rule, it doesn't really matter what order we do it in. We could take the second times the derivative of the first plus the first times the derivative of the second. So the order doesn't matter as much in the product rule because we're adding, and we know the order doesn't matter in adding. But the quotient rule is a little bit different. It's very similar, but we're subtracting. And if you think about exponents and subtracting, when we have a quotient of two things, we subtract exponents. So just like in the derivative, we're going to subtract in that as well. But we have to know what order to do it in. We take the derivative of, we take the denominator, take the denominator, multiply it by the derivative of the numerator, and we subtract the numerator times the derivative of the denominator, and we divide it all by the denominator squared. Now, that sounds really complicated, but I do have a way of helping you remember that. We say low d high minus high d low all over low squared. So you're going to hear me sing this in class. I'm not doing it in this video, but you're going to hear me sing this a lot so that you remember how to do it. It's the lower function times the derivative of the higher function minus the higher function times the derivative of the lower function all over the lower one squared. So let's take a look at an example of that. All right, so here's our function. We're going to differentiate f of x equals x squared minus 1 all over x squared plus 1. So f prime of x equals the lower function x squared plus 1 times the derivative of the upper function. The derivative of x squared minus 1 is 2x. We're going to subtract the higher function, x squared minus 1, and take the derivative of the lower function, which x squared plus 1, the derivative of that is 2x. Hopefully you're getting really good now at these power rules. And that's going to be all over the denominator, or the lower function, squared. So x squared plus 1 quantity squared. So now all we have to do is just go ahead and simplify this. So this equals 2x times x squared, I'm just distributing, is 2x cubed, times 2x plus 1 is plus 2x, minus 2x times x squared is 2x to the third. 2x times a negative 1 is minus 2x, but please remember to watch your signs. The negative of a negative becomes positive. So the 2x cubed, and of course this is all over x squared plus 1 quantity squared. The 2x cubes are going to cancel out. I have plus 2x and plus 2x is 4x over the quantity of x squared plus 1 quantity squared. So that's it. I don't need to do any more multiplication or simplifying this. Hope that makes a little bit of sense. Of course, we'll practice this in class.